We're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly, the final part of the final part of the last days. This is the end of the world. This is the end of the world.
Hello and welcome to the Last Days live stream, the show that brings welcome levity to the end of the world, lifting the spirits of many of you currently battling boredom, loneliness or anxiety by infecting as many as possible with comfort and distraction as what is manifestly the apocalypse unfolds. How is everyone doing? I'm sorry if, again, my sound and audio is out of sync. I think, basically, I just need a new machine. I'm starting to realise that my 2016 MacBook is perhaps in need of upgrade. So I think it's just going to be a case of the sync being better or worse, depending on how far through the show we are. We'll wait and see what happens. How is everyone doing, more importantly? Cat D was the first comment, so well done, Cat, for being the early bird. Angry Birdie. Speaking of birds, we have an angry bird. Just as people that used to come to the congregation super early, indeed. Danny Bear says hello, heathens. Jimmy B says hello, all from Northern California. Angry Bird, oh gosh, it's done that thing where it jumps forward again. I hate it when it does that. I'm scrolling through the comments and it just leaps forward just as I'm about to read a comment. Anyway, Angry Bird is from Vienna, it seems, so that's nice. Joan Spruce, sorry, hails from Canada. Susan is watching from Florida. Let's see here. We have Mad Jock in the house, always welcome. A very good morning from the land of haggis, whiskey, and rain. Hope everyone is well this morning. I hope you don't mind, Mad Jock, if I say that whiskey is probably the most successful of those exports. I have actually tried haggis, and I think whiskey definitely, and of course approved by the faithful slave, no less. Joelle Brown says, "Hey Lloyd, I've changed my profile picture to contribute to the cat live stream you are doing." Who said anything about a cat live stream? Although that's probably what it will end up being, if the green room is anything to indicate. This is Prince. He lived for 24 years. Best cat ever. I didn't think that was even possible for a cat to live for 24 years. I'm learning more about the feline of the species. Eric Larson is with us. Let's see here. We have Danny Bear as well. Lovely to see you all speaking to each other, by the way, and a little bit of a community, I think, forming around the Last Days live stream. Nesbo says, "Morning all, ready with a bowl of porridge and a hot cup of tea. Looking forward to some light entertainment." We specialise in that, Nesbo. You are in the right place when it comes to light entertainment of the, is it mid-apocalyptic? You can't really say post-apocalyptic because that would be the paradise. And it's not pre-apocalyptic because it is actually the final part of the last days. So this is mid-apocalyptic, arguably. A few laughs and maybe a touch of sophistication. Well, that again we can help with. Let's see here. So Danny wants to know, did anyone bring wine? I have granola and dried fruit as an offering. Well, I think I will, if with the greatest respect, Danny, I think I'll hang on for the wine. Let's see here. Scroll. Angry Birdie wants to know who's going to speak the prayer in the beginning. I think we've missed that opportunity, haven't we? So Marilla Pink is here. What great company you all are. Arthur has been engaging with the live chatters. Good on you, Arthur. Keeping the rabble in order there. Did I just call all of the live chat rabble? I didn't mean to do that, sorry. Single-handedly insult everyone. Carolyn McLaughlin says, good morning from Iowa. Renato is here, fresh from his appearance in our last show, in which he provided, I think, very helpful information, some of which served to bring Team O'Donnell into line when it came to their objections to certain parts of the quiz that they didn't like. Oh, don't get me started. Hayden Honeywood says, hi everyone, hope you're all well. New York is represented, the Big Apple no less, by Makala Abraham. So hello, Makala. Gavin Mark needs Dutch courage, it seems. So Macallan will do. Macallan does slide down nicely. Although, here's the thing with Macallan. I heard one or two saying, oh yeah, Anthony Morris has amazing taste in whiskey. And I did try Macallan because someone brought it for me as a gift. I don't know. I've had experiences tasting whiskey where I've been absolutely kind of knocked sideways by the explosion of flavour in my mouth. And Macallan didn't quite do it for me. Maybe I'm just being picky. But it is a nice whiskey, I will grant you. I'm just not quite sure whether it's worth the outlay in terms of finances. Let me sort my headphones out. We have the Netherlands represented. That's wonderful. We also have sunny Kent represented. Good for you, Lisa. We don't actually have any sun at the moment here in Croatia. It's just relentless thunderstorms and rain, actually reminding me very much of the land I came from, if I'm being completely honest. Diana Moreno says hello from Stockton, California. And Rick James wants to remind everyone of the dress code. Yes, tight pants only, I'm afraid. In the live chat, please do make the necessary adjustments if your clothing isn't tight enough in that area. And Steen1 says, I have my chicken schnitzel, bacon and lettuce sarnie all ready. On with the show. This is it. I think that would actually be a good quote for Saturday's last day's quiz, to completely send Team O'Donnell spiraling out of control. Mind you, Arthur's in the green room, so I don't want to clue him in on which quotes I'm going to be using. He's sneaky. I don't trust him. But anyway, we have a contender, I think. I think that could sufficiently surprise people if I hit them with the schnitzel. Right. Let's have a bit of reading, shall we? And actually, I forgot to turn on my lights. Let me turn on some lights because it's a little bit gloomy in the bunker today. Gosh. You see, that's like I feel like I'm being interrogated. And it's also a little bit too much detail on my less than pristine features, if I'm being brutally honest. That'll do, I think. We can make adjustments as the show goes on. So, we are reading Exiting the JW Cult, a Healing Handbook for Current and Former Jehovah's Witnesses by Bonnie Zeman, who I've had on the channel and who is a licensed mental health professional and also an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I'm reading from chapter 6 of her book. Some challenges and accompanying feelings you may face while actually in the process of exiting the sect. Fear of the unknown. How exactly will everything unfold? Will I be able to fade out of the sect, or will I be called on the carpet by a committee of elders and asked to justify my behaviours and beliefs? Will I have the courage to refuse the elders' orders? Will my family obey or defy the expectation to shun me? Doubts about your ability to follow through with your intent to leave. Will I have the strength? Will I be able to explain what it is I am doing and why? Do I have to or want to explain myself to a committee of elders? Can I endure the exposure and condemnation by those who don't understand my choice and aren't willing to think beyond what they have been told? Patience, while well-meaning witnesses try to counsel or shame you out of your inner knowing and your intent to leave, like Sister Anointed in the above example. I don't think I've read that part. Anger and perhaps bitterness at the way you are being treated by the elders and even the brothers and sisters. Discovering that the love from the friends in the truth is conditional will be hurtful. When you don't follow the rules of the organization, you are cast out by people you thought loved you. There is also no acknowledgement or gratitude for all your years of service. And now that you see the truth about the truth, none of your previous service for the organization counts for anything if you choose to leave. There will certainly be no going away party to thank you for your many years of service. Humiliation you may feel if your situation is exposed publicly from the platform by the elders. Family disharmony, turmoil, and pain in your marriage mate if your marriage mate, does not see things as you do, and if minor children are involved. Concerns about what your minor children will be told about you and how they will feel about you as a consequence. Concerns about whether your children will remain under the control and influence of the JW sect. These two are a few of the daunting challenges you can anticipate while in the process of leaving, but hopefully ones you will come to terms with as you seriously consider your options. There's actually another list beginning. I'm wondering, I think I might read a couple of points from the list. A few things to help you with the above stage of being in the process of exiting. First bullet point. Know it may help you to document all the details of the process of leaving the Jehovah's Witness sect. It could prove useful down the road to have carefully documented what happened in discussions with elders, etc. Actually, that's a good point. I found it immensely helpful having some form of documentation of the process when I was writing The Reluctant Apostate, because I was able to find emails, I think even some handwritten letters that were dated, and it just helped me to establish a timeline. Granted, not everyone's going to write a memoir about their experience, but I did personally find keeping some kind of record of the process helpful. As well, documentation could also serve as a way to release some of the pent-up pressure you are feeling. Set apart a few pages in a special journal to make a running list of all the reasons you have for making your decision to leave. You can go back and review this list whenever you feel your morale, memory, or determination flagging. Know it helps to keep reading well-documented material such as Raymond Franz's book, Crisis of Conscience. Join groups or forums of ex-witnesses online where you can express yourself and hear other points of view. Keep watching YouTube videos of documentaries such as Truth Be Told, or of other ex-witnesses who are sharing their exit experience. Be selective with materials on the web. While most material by ex-Jehovah's Witnesses is well-intentioned, as in anything, there are varying degrees of quality in what is available. Find sites that treat the subject seriously and ones that are suited to you. I've been reading from Exiting the JW Cult, a healing handbook for current and former Jehovah's Witnesses, highly recommended for those who need some advice, need to be helped through this very difficult process. And to help share their thoughts on what's just been read, I introduce to you the Green Room in the form of Mr. Webber, Mrs. D'Souza, and Mr. D'Souza. How are you all?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. I will show your cats.
No, not yet. You can keep it up your sleeve if you want.
But can I first have your thoughts on what was just being read? Because I noticed you all kind of nodding along.
Yeah, I thank you again for sharing that book, because I think all of us would agree that the work that Bonnie Zeman has done, and as you said, she's licensed, she's qualified, has been of great help to all of us that have read the book or looked at the work that she's done. And yeah, a collective thank you to her for all of the effort she's put in and the many people that she's helped.
And it's very apt, because as you were reading that, Lloyd, I couldn't help but think of several that have just emailed JWsurvey in the last week or so, who are in exactly the situations you just described. It's just tragic where marriages and families are breaking up because of the indoctrination of the religion, and because you're not allowed to leave gracefully. So that's very timely words that you read out just then from the book. And I think for any witness waking up and coming out of this religion, reading that book is absolutely essential to trying to heal and recover from what you go through.
Indeed. No, always helpful to have that kind of advice. Again, I have my own sort of self-help book, How to Escape from Jehovah's Witnesses, but I make the point in that book that I'm not a licensed professional, and you really ought to seek out help from a licensed professional. And that's something that Bonnie very much brings to the table, is she's able to mix her own advice and perspective as an XJW with her professional training. So that's wonderful. Let's have a look at some new additions to your family. So do you want to talk us through what we're looking at? Obviously, if you're just joining us, viewers, this is actually a cat video. As you can plainly see, we're here talking about cats.
Yes, so these are our two new little babies. We've not even had them a week yet. The Abyssinian kittens. The one licking himself at the moment is Sydney, and the one curled up in a little tight ball trying to get some sleep is Abernathy. They're just so delightful, these two. They were playing earlier today in this cat tree, and they're just hysterical to watch. I think our work productivity is suffering terribly.
Well,
Jones Bruce is questioning the breed.
Not Siamese. They're Abyssinian.
No. Abyssinian, yeah. Okay.
There's a reason behind the name. So Abernathy and Sydney. We shortened Abernathy's name to Abby. So together they are Abby Sydney, the Abyssinians. And they have their own social media account. We invite everybody to follow their Instagram account, which is aby.sidney. Abby
Will
Sydney.
they be live tweeting their experience of joining the D'Souzas? Okay.
Many times, yes. They have much to say. They are amazing. They travelled 900 kilometres to join our family.
That's
oh,
really
nice
strange.
That was graceful. That was graceful.
So they pay homage to their big brother Derby, who's on the picture behind. In fact, it's funny, we saw them last night both looking up at the picture, meowing as if they somehow recognised him as another cat. It was the most amazing experience, but it's taken us a while to find room in our hearts to invite new family members in, and in memory of Derby and in honour of him, we have Abby and Sydney to join us. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. That picture's going to get destroyed.
Yeah, I don't rate its chances, to be honest, given its proximity to very sharp, pointy things.
Yes, Arthur.
Arthur is actually a master of impressions, as many of you will be aware already, and has absolutely nailed cats there.
Yes, I just realized that my microphone was on mute on my hardware device.
Oh no, the tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Can that happen during the song? I mean, sorry. No.
Eric has a question. Speaking of Arthur, is there a part of the book that helps people get pesky cult song lyrics out of their head?
Thanks, Eric.
Well, definitely. If you want to get those pesky cult song lyrics out of your head, you just have to watch JW Broadcasting. You have to join on jw.org. And you get the inspiration from the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures. So there is a very rich amount of information that can be used and adapted into those heart-lifting lyrics that we all enjoy here on the Last Days live stream. Aren't we, dear brothers and sisters?
Arthur, since you seem to be taking over as the show's host almost at this point, would you be able to introduce a little bit of culture and sophistication?
So, ladies and gentlemen, in the following moments, we are proud to bring in some culture, some sophistication, a glass of wine, and some royal blue ink in the pen that is used to craft Sasha's Poetry Corner. Producer...
I think your job as host is quite safe, Lloyd. So I think you're
Ouch.
Love you, Arthur. All right, so here's a little poem I put together this afternoon. It was inspired by some more of the news updates and the media updates that we're hearing from around the world, including our own backyard, which we'll share with you afterwards. So, what is the value of all human life, especially during times of trouble and strife? Do we just think of ourselves or our loved ones alone, or do we think of everyone else on our planetary home? We've seen variations of behaviour during COVID-19, including human reactions that are sometimes obscene. We've seen polarising opinions causing displays of great heat, spanning those holding power to the average man in the street. Some leaders have stated that these cases are only increasing because we've increased our testing, so we should simply be ceasing to count all the tests, because that's the real problem. So let's slow down the testing, because that'll surely solve them. Yes, because these lower numbers will mean everything is fixed. Yet that's the solution, that's the real trick. The logic seems perfect, at least in his mind, yet for everyone else who grasps reality, we find that people keep on dying. Yes, the numbers could be lower. If we acted with awareness, the rate of increase could be slower. So the reality worldwide is we should all have the same desire to see the human family thrive, indeed for all to aspire, to overcome the great odds and the dramas that unfold, to grow and enhance. We shouldn't need to be cajoled. So why does it even need to be a debate? And why do these issues reduce some to pure hate? For example, what will it cost you to put yourself out, to wear a simple face mask while out and about? Why not just simply help out your fellow neighbour and really think of others and be a true community saviour? For as we look around at the many parts of the world, the terrible statistics are still being unfurled. But if we each personally live every day doing better, each of us can contribute to this global endeavour. And if we truly value the life of each member of humanity, we'll come out so much better from this time of insanity. And rather than just making it through and survive, we will succeed with true kindness and help others to thrive.
Very nice indeed, Sasha. Yes, what does it take to just wear a face mask? It's probably worth mentioning for those who are newer viewers, there are currently 130 watching across Facebook and YouTube. The show was originally called the Coronavirus Lockdown Livestream. We started this show just to help people who are bored and being driven out of their minds due to the lockdown situation. But in many ways, that's ongoing. And it could be argued that the reason why it's ongoing is because of poor management. So, yeah, that's very regrettable to see.
Well, there's an
Here
improvement.
he is again. At least he's figured out this time how to actually wear a face mask. He seemed to be a bit confused when we caught him in the street the other day. Arthur, could you please respond to this comment from Jimmy B, who...
I'm pretty sure Arthur wants to be adopted by Stephen Lett. Wow.
Would you answer that that claim, those...
Well, it doesn't bother me.
That's Tomo.
That's Tony. That's Tony Morris.
I know. I was just kidding. Actually, probably I would like to be adopted by the Bethel family in Warwick, New York.
Oh, good grief.
What
Here he
did you
goes
start,
again.
Lloyd?
And that was
Maybe they're at the IT department or the graphic.
Unfortunately, we've lost Arthur just as he was getting into his stride with a very triggering comment. Nice to see Rianne joining us. Rianne says, I'm in hospital waiting for my MRI. Well, that sounds very stressful, Rianne. Our thoughts are with you as someone who has recovered from said virus. So whatever it is you're getting checked out for, we wish you the very best of care. Also, thank you to Lisa Burberry for a very kind and generous super chat, which obviously helps the channel because these live streams almost always end up triggering YouTube's algorithms so that I can't monetize them. It's really just to bring a little bit of levity again.
Yeah.
Join us for the triggering experience of the lockdown live stream.
And there can
as you
surely be few more triggering experiences for anyone than to sit through Sing Along with Arthur.
What's about the wow, 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 sing along, meow along.
He's finally lost his mind.
Well, if our producer Lloyd Evans has put the cat video online, well, we had to have a sing along with Abby and Sydney.
Work.
Why not?
Exactly. Sing along with Abby Sydney. I like that.
So, is Arthur going to sing something from Cats? No, I don't know any song from the Cats musical. I do know a song about cats, but that's in Romanian, and I really can't translate it.
If you're singing something from Cats, you'd have to be feline fine to do that, wouldn't you?
Oh, Sasha. Penalty. Yellow card warning at this point, Sasha. No one's allowed to drop puns like that unless they're hosting the show. Good grief.
It wasn't my best.
That was awful.
But we all do love Sasha's puns, don't we?
Oh, thanks, Stephen. All right, come on, get on with the song. We need this song, Arthur.
Which song then?
You haven't chosen a song.
No, I haven't. I was telling the
You
viewers
had
on
one.
the live.
You had one job, and that was to come up with a song for Sing Along with Arthur. Sherry, do you have comfort prepared for later?
I do.
Sasha, Was I mistaken, or did you in fact read a poem earlier when it was your
I believe
segment?
I did. I believe all of us have done what we were here to do.
Apart from...
Well, actually, let me tell you how it was.
Did
For
your
That
dog
today,
sounds
it
like
was,
a governing body excuse.
no, it's not a governing body excuse. It's actually today I was prepared to go and do my paperwork for getting hired. I'll be starting a new job in the very near future, and actually the part I was scheduled for today was wrapped up earlier than expected. The second part is due to be due to be started actually in 35 minutes. So I didn't know that I would be able to join the live stream.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you just sing something a cappella briefly, and then we can at least say that you've sung something.
No, I won't be singing a cappella. I would rather.
We've
Do
given
something.
you plenty of suggestions.
Yeah, I know what I'm gonna sing. Because
We're nothing but prepared on this lockdown live stream.
yeah,
I agree, Mark. I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mark.
Yeah.
the thing is that even if if I'm not if I don't have any prepared satirical lyrics, I can sing something for real. Why not?
Come on, there are dogs waiting to howl, says Joel. So don't let the canines down.
All right. So let's see.
Thank you, Aussie Outdoor Blokes. What I'll do is, while
Cheers for
Arthur
your
is
email the other day too.
while Arthur is choosing a song, I'm just going to take the heat off him for a little bit. Lisa says, Rianne, wish you the very best of health, sending my love and best wishes. Thank you very much, Nadia, for the super chat. That's very kind indeed.
Would this be a good time too, Lloyd, just to acknowledge like the Aussie Outdoor Blokes and a lot of others have sent through some beautiful emails over the last few weeks too. And again, we thank everybody for that. Thanks for emailing the team and sharing thoughts and observations or feedback on things. We appreciate that. Or if you're just looking for some support, the support at JWsurvey.org email is always available. If you know of people who are going through rough times or you need just to bounce things off a team that understands and gets it, we're here for you. So, yeah, we appreciate all those emails that have been coming through.
We do.
If we were talking about Toni Morris and Stephen Lett and their Heavenly Hope, I was thinking about singing a song about angels, because angels in heaven,
He's going to murder Robbie Williams, isn't he?
No, the Kelly Family version.
Oh, right, okay.
No, An Angel by Kelly Family.
Oh, okay.
I wish I had your pair of wings. Had them last night in my dreams. I was chasing butterflies till the sunrise broke my eyes. Tonight the sky has glued my eyes. That's what I see is an angel life. Got to touch that magic sky. Leave the angels in their hive. Sometimes I wish I were an angel. Sometimes I wish I were you. Sometimes I wish I were an angel. Sometimes I wish I were you. And all the sweet honey from above, right all over me, sweet love. While you flying around my head, honey kisses keep me fed. Wish I had your pair of wings, just like last night in my dreams. I was lost in paradise. Wish I've never opened my eyes. Sometimes I wish I were an angel. Sometimes I wish I were you. Sometimes I wish I were an angel. Sometimes I wish I were you. But there's danger in the air. Try so hard to be unfair. Dangers in the air. Try so hard, give us a scare, but we're not afraid. Sometimes I wish I were an angel. Sometimes I wish I were you. Sometimes I wish I were an angel. Sometimes I wish I were you. Wish I were you. Oh, I wish I were you.
Madjock 2112 says he is hitting some notes. Those were definitely notes, and he was hitting them very hard.
Inspiring, Arthur. Inspiring. I couldn't help, though. I was distracted. At the beginning, you said that this was spurred on by Toni Morris and Stephen Lett, who, of course, aspire to be angels in heaven. So all I could think of was Tony with wings flapping around up there. I mean, can you imagine it? Complete with an angelic halo and little... maybe with a bow and arrow alongside Jesus.
No, the bow and arrow and the cape are reserved to our very own Kenny Rogers in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, Kenny will be overseeing the heavenly armies that ride on the day of judgment with Toni Morris. Although someone mentioned the other day that when that occurs, Toni Morris may have a hit list, and my name may be quite high up on the hit list.
No doubt.
Yes.
But I made the comment that I would actually pay money to see Tony in his usual state of inebriation, trying to even get on a heavenly horse. I just don't see it, to be honest.
Trying to aim a bow and arrow while drunk.
And ladies and gentlemen, imagine Toni Morris on Heavenly Horse with a W.
Can you imagine? So Tony has a hit list of all the people he wants to take out. By the way, everybody who's watching, you're all part of that, guilty by association. So yeah, we're all doomed. You have
Pretty
to
much.
laugh at it. The concept of it just needs.
Absolutely. And thanks to the Aussie Outdoor Blokes mentioned earlier for your very, very generous super chat. That's very kind indeed. Thank you. And also lovely to receive a super chat from Rianne, who is in hospital, we've just heard. A little donation to support the channel, keeping it monetized. Just buy some pet food and show the dog or cat every once in a while. The MRI is stressful. COVID-19 is haunting me still. Yeah, COVID-19, of course, something that can leave long-lasting effects on the body. All the more reason to not take it too lightly, and in fact to do everything you can to stop yourself and others from contracting COVID-19. So we wish you well, Rianne, and thank you again for your support of the channel. That's very much appreciated.
Yeah. Speaking of the unnamed virus that we don't want to talk about, can I give you an update of how things are happening or how things are going in Australia at the moment?
Sure thing, yeah.
So just listening to a few reputable media outlets today. So we're now in a situation in Australia that I think most Australians didn't think would happen. We kind of had that she'll be right attitude that it's happening overseas and it's not really our problem. And And yet, unfortunately, that complacency has got us to a point where all the states have a hard border lockdown. They had opened up a few of the borders, but some of the states had held out. We're now in a situation where Victoria particularly is going through a tremendously, so I shouldn't say tremendous, that's a triggering word for somebody. It's going through a very bad state. They are now in a situation where they have a curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. They cannot go more than 5 kilometres from their homes. Essential stores only are open, which is literally grocery stores, petrol stations, chemists, pharmacies, things like that. Some of the other stores, such as Bunnings, which is our large hardware store, like a large department hardware store, they're open only to trade, so there's no public. If department stores are closed down, the government is giving quite a few one-off generous payments to try and help people, to encourage them to stay home. But there's no denying this is very serious. The Premier's come out and he said that if you are a confirmed case, you are to stay home. They've sent the military out to check on those who have confirmed cases. Of the 3,000 cases that were confirmed on one of the times, 800 people were found to not be at home isolating when they should have been. And there's been up to $4,000 fine to each of those people if they're not complying with the order to stay in. Mandatory face masks. And most people are complying, but these ones who haven't have been the cause of problems that have spread to other parts of Australia as well. So the government is taking it very seriously. They're not even sitting, the Australian federal government's not even sitting with Parliament. They may look at doing a virtual thing, but at this stage, not even Parliament is sitting. So it's certainly very serious. And the strong leadership, though, that has been shown by various states and the federal leadership has been probably the thing that safeguarded it from being worse. But we're only at the plateau. We haven't started to reduce that peak. We're just plateauing a little bit. So, yeah, Sherry, you might know a little bit more, but that's something that I heard that is giving people, I guess, a bit of sobriety to realise that this is nowhere near over. We're only at the beginning of our second wave in Australia, and we are nowhere near over.
No. So
Romania is also getting new peaks in terms of infections and even deaths. We will ask our Romanian President Klaus Iohannis to give us our latest news. Thank you, Arthur. In Romania, in the last 24 hours, there have been made 20,581 tests, and 1,232 new cases of COVID-19 infections were found. 48 patients have passed away, and these are the highest figures for one day since the commencement of the pandemic. And also, I want to announce that in intensive care there are 436 patients. Arthur, back to you. Thank you, Mr. Iohannis, and back to our live stream.
Thank you, Arthur, for that impression of
it's a one-man show.
A president describing people in intensive care. Something I never expected to see on the last day's live stream, I must say. So, I think what we all need at this point is a little bit of comfort. Preferably not being terrified, but no promises. It's time for Sherry's Comfort Corner. Sherry's Comfort Corner.
I don't know whether I'm more terrified of the shark or I'm more terrified of what's going on behind me because they keep breaking out of this and jumping all over the leather chair. Running around, and yes, I'm somewhat distracted by these two. Anywho, for Comfort Corner today, I have prepared a few things. For me personally, first coming out of the religion, and I think a lot of people may be able to relate to this, my identity was so entwined with being a witness that I didn't know, when I broke down the belief structure, what did I really believe now? Who was I? What were my core values? It's such a bewildering experience to go through. And so that took me to therapy, but it also took me to a lot of reading. And we have built up quite a nice little book collection now. One of the things that I've recently bought, which is what I want to share with everybody, is this: The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's really quite cool because it's basically all these cards. And the idea is there's 52 cards to challenge and inspire every week of the year. And this has been from Dr. Stephen Covey. And it was a New York Times best-selling author. There's been lots of copies of this sold. So I just wanted to share the first 2 with everybody, because it gives you a good basis to start when you're trying to identify your authentic self. So the first one is define effectiveness. And the exercise to do is to list some things you would like to change to become more effective. Keep this handy as you work through the challenge cards. On the back is some pointed questions that you can consider in answering or putting your list together of effective things. So the question: what matters most to me in my work and personal life? When you shift your focus, you shift your impact. Put a spotlight on what matters in your life and list the next steps toward making positive change happen in those areas. That's a really great place to start when you're trying to build your foundation again. And that's really what you have to do when you leave the religion. It's just rebuilding all over again. The second one is model good character. And the exercise there is to think of a person with excellent character, define some of the principles they live by, which of those principles would you like to implement, and do something today to act on those principles. So there are all the actions. The thinking part on the back, ask yourself, have I focused on quick fixes at the expense of my character? Like the top of a tree, our personality is what people see first. Although appearance, techniques, and skills can influence our success, the real source of lasting effectiveness lies in a strong character. They're the roots. So that's given me some good food for thought, and I'm looking forward to going through the rest of the cards. I think that my comfort corner is pretty much taken care of now for some time, because there's quite a bit there. But yeah, so I hope people derive something beneficial out of that. I'm looking forward to going through the rest of these.
I suppose it's a case of, embracing the project of self-development, and figuring out the most effective ways of achieving whatever it is that your goals are. I think for some people, the problem is even establishing goals to begin with and figuring out what they want to achieve in their lives, especially once they've freshly exited from a group that has very much defined what their goals should be, and now all of a sudden they're in a situation where they need to decide for themselves what they feel they want to aim for. But having decided on what to aim for, you're then left with the challenge of finding the tools to get there. And I definitely agree that your personality, skills and various tools will be helpful, but probably the most effective thing will be, like you say, a winning, strong personality.
Yeah.
That's a good point too, Lloyd. Sorry.
There's the cards that come after this talk about paradigm. what your paradigm is. And when I was reading that one, to me, it sort of struck me of your core values list. And I think reevaluating your core values is actually a very helpful and useful exercise to do, because the words around those core values they can be triggers. And we might joke about it, like Sasha and I were joking last week, actually, when we picked up the cats. Our friend who had picked the cats up to meet us, he'd picked up a wallet. Someone had left a wallet behind, and they called the person to return the wallet back. And we made a joke about it and went, but you're not one of Jehovah's Witnesses now, so how did you know to return the wallet? Because honesty is obviously only something that Jehovah's Witnesses have, and nobody else can have it. And that can be difficult to sort of break down, that you are a good person because you're a good person, not because the religion told you that that's how you have to be. So doing some core value exercises and activities can be really helpful, because you can see that that's you. That's not a religion. And that's kind of what I'm trying to define for myself right now, is just understanding who I am as a person, and the work too of who I am as a woman, because that's something that you're not taught to do either. But the whole exercise of, I suppose, learning about yourself can actually be a really exciting thing. It's not something that needs to be hard work. It actually can be really enjoyable to go through that process. I'm enjoying it. I get really excited about learning new aspects of myself, even the ones I don't necessarily like. But it's good to just have that healthy. It comes back to self-compassion, really, having that kindness for yourself.
That's a really key point too, Sherry. It's the fact that we have to give ourselves permission when we wake up and we leave a high control group or a cult, that it's actually okay to give ourselves permission to reevaluate who we are and to question, our very DNA. Our DNA was wrapped up with being a witness. Well, it doesn't need to be. And it's actually okay to give ourselves permission to explore, who are we? What are our core values? What is it that's important to us? What is it that defines us as a person? And that's completely separate from any religion that we were once a part of. In fact, it could be said that we are good people, and the proof of that is the fact that we were able to break out of a high control environment and think for ourselves. That's proof that we actually have credible personality traits, and that we have a real focus on truth and honesty and integrity, because we took that hard step to take the narrow and cramped road, if you like, and we decided to reevaluate what is it that makes us who we are.
Yeah, there's some interesting comments coming through. Joanne Checkley says, I so relate to this. Who are you when no one is telling you what to think, how to behave, how to look? Nesbo says, once you realize you can take off the new personality, it can be hard to find your true self. Let's see here. There's actually a question about the cats from Dark Void Fortress. We need the cats' Instagram. Do they have an Instagram account?
Yes, they do. I'll pop it in the private chat, and you and Arthur can.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. Where am I? Oh, there we are. That.
Yes, their Instagram account is a play on their names. So Abernathy and Sydney, or Abby for short. Abby Sydney, the Abyssinians.
Rosetta, while that's happening, Rosetta says, I agree, and you want someone else to define those goals because you didn't have a choice before. You do tend to just drift towards wanting someone else to tell you what you're supposed to do. It can be challenging to figure this out for yourself. And the Aussie Outdoor Blokes say, great idea and suggestion, Sherry. I will be actioning this and getting the book for my family members to help in their journey.
And can we say on that
Petal Parker says, it also helps to remind ourselves we did nothing to deserve the shunning. That's right. Yeah, just a few comments there.
And as we learn and as we find out who we are, we're going to make mistakes along the way. We're going to, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's that whole thing about like a toddler learning to walk. They fall over every now and then. That's okay. So as we develop our own thinking ability and our own ability to determine the course of our life, try different things, work out what it is that's important to us. And at the end of it, our real personality, or as you've many times said, Lloyd, our authentic self will come out. And our authentic selves are good people.
So we've got the Instagram now. If you want to follow these delightful creatures, this is their main social media presence. When they're not live tweeting.
You were saying
when they're not live tweeting their kind of opinions on current events, they will be taking selfies, and those will be on Instagram.
They may have more wisdom than many people who are.
It's
on
almost
social
like a
media.
reprise of Sing Along with Arthur, Meow Along with Arthur.
Now along with Abby Sidney.
So there we go. Gosh.
Dear.
I think someone might be joining our fray. And it's this man.
Ooh, Javi.
Here he is.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Sleep deprived in California, I would assume.
Yeah, I couldn't go to sleep until I had my fill of Arthur's singing.
Well, we've had our fill of it already.
I missed it.
Although Arthur is just currently randomly making animal noises, if that's something that might amuse you. Arthur, do you want to continue what you were amusing us with? Yeah, that's unfortunately what the show has descended into at this point. So I'm actually very grateful that you've come along, Javi.
And it's good that I caught. It's really good that I caught Javi joining before I have to leave, because I'm scheduled to be at my GP at 45 minutes.
Okay.
So I will be leaving you guys with the rest of the panel, and seeing you on Saturday.
Okay.
Right here on the Last Days live stream. Enjoy
Thank
the
you
rest
for your
of the show.
Thanks for your inspiring company.
Take care, Arthur.
Good to
See you
You
soon.
too.
Off he goes.
So is
Right.
this the cat cam? Is it
Yeah.
one?
Yes, we have a cat cam. These are Sasha and Sherry's new cats. A reminder that they have their own Instagram. So they will be appearing in various cute and cuddly shots. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
How's life with you, Harvey?
Good. So I'm up late working on some deadlines I have this week. But
Sure. Some filmmaking, script writing, script editing deadlines.
yep.
Yeah, excellent. And what's the situation currently with the pandemic where you are?
I mean, everything here is still shut down for the most part. Businesses are open, but like if food is for takeout and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we're holding up quarantine. The girls start school next week, but it's all distance learning. So this week we're picking up their laptops and textbooks, and then we're doing some rearranging in the house in their rooms with desks and furniture and stuff like that, so they can be ready to go next week.
That's going to be odd, isn't it? Going
It's
to
weird.
school, without going to school.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
kind of feel
strange.
bad for them, but
Yeah,
everybody's on the same boat. So
exactly. I'm kind of a bit gutted for Jessica because she's supposed to be starting school, as in her first year at school, and she can't basically, can she? And she obviously doesn't quite understand where she obviously knows a lot about coronavirus. She is the channel's expert, and she has a lot to say on it. But obviously she's only 6 years old, so she doesn't understand that this is completely unprecedented, you know. So this is kind of normal for her. It's very strange.
You know, we have to make a positive spin on it in a way too, though. You know, we talk about how bad things are, and rightly so, with what's happening. And yet never have we had a time in human history where we've been able to do remote learning or remote work because of the technology, the increases of the scientific and technological fields that have allowed us this opportunity to do what we're doing now, to chat live and for education online. So it really we have to, you know, do a bit of a tip of the hat to science and technology for getting us to this point.
Yeah, when Skype first came on the scene, everyone just thought, oh, that's a better way of keeping in touch with each other. None of us assumed that Skype or something like Skype, such as Zoom, would end up actually, in a way, coming to the rescue of civilization, because without that sort of thing, everything just grinds to a standstill. I mean, we're seeing it as well with ICSA. They're continuing with their hearings because of that technology. So it really has come to the rescue.
I think businesses... Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
Sorry. I've been fascinated with some of the changes in different areas that I wasn't expecting. So at the melanoma practice, some of the way procedures have been delivered to patients has changed to adapt to the situation with COVID. So it's actually not directly related to it, but it's having an impact. So what I'm meaning there is some of the surgeries that are being performed, because we can't have them admitted overnight, certain reasons for that, can only be day only, the surgeons have had to adapt techniques and ways of treating patients to accommodate to all of these changes happening around. And it's actually improved the standard of care to patients. And it's helped also from a health economic point of view that it's not as costly. So it's actually saving the government money as well. And that is not something that I would have expected to have had happen as a result from the pandemic. And I have to wonder how many things are indirectly being affected by this, that we're actually taking the opportunity to improve things, not just in technology, but so many other things.
Exactly. Humans are very resilient. We're able to adapt. We're able to grow. We're able to take a bad situation and improve upon it. So sometimes, you know, out of the fire of bad things comes something much better, and this is evidence of it, as you're saying.
Well, we're living through it right now, but I think there's going to be like a time before COVID and a time after, and I mean that like in the sense that just businesses and schools and just society in general has quickly adapted to what it means to live like this. Like just to give an example on businesses, you know, I'm familiar with businesses that went from never allowing their employees to work from home. That was just their policy, to 100% that everybody's working from home because they had to. And I can't imagine those companies are going to go back to demanding that employees be 100% in the office all the time. And if they do, they have to be able to quickly adapt if things get shut down or things like that happen again. So I know companies have made big investments in hardware and software so that employees can work from home, and I just don't see that going back.
No, I would agree. But at the same time, though, I've heard of some behavior from employers that is, I can't even think of the right word. I just heard recently that Facebook, so a lot of their employees are all working from home, and some have decided that they need to move so that they can manage their finances a bit better in a place that's not as expensive to live in. And Facebook's response to that has been, oh, well, your salary is going to drop, because they've geared the salaries for their staff in a way that it takes into account the cost of living in the area where their employee is. So if their employee moves to a cost of living postcode or county that is not as expensive to live, Facebook's going to change their salary. Mm-hmm. And that's disgusting. me.
Yeah, no, just I used to work for a cable provider here in the States, and I don't work there anymore because they moved their headquarters to Denver. And then we found out after the move that they had come into an agreement with the state of Colorado to move a certain amount of jobs from different parts of the country into Colorado. And the agreement was that they would have to offer their employees a certain salary range. Because, if you have an influx of people coming into your community, you want those people to be able to afford the housing, to buy housing, to uplift the local economy. And so like all of those employees, for example, that are working in Denver, a lot of those guys still had families and homes in California, and they've been there for 2 years. And now they're working from here because it's 100% remote. So I can totally see the company doing something like, hey, if you're not living in Denver, that we don't have to pay you the rates that we agreed with the state of Colorado. And so, that might start to affect them. I can totally see how that can happen. It is wrong. I don't agree with it, but I see where their business decisions might be at risk. So
yeah.
Just a correction. So Steen one is pointing out, not unprecedented. 1918 was worse. 1664 was even worse. Yes, when I said unprecedented, I meant unprecedented for our generation. I mean, we've all kind of grown up, haven't we, not having to think about the consequences or the potential risks of being in close proximity with lots of other people. And that's actually one thing that I'm wondering how that manifests itself once the pandemic is no longer a concern. Let's say once a vaccine is in circulation, which I think is probably the only way we're going to see the end of this. Once governments are on top of this virus, how will the kind of residual effects of social distancing manifest themselves? Will we look at large gatherings of people like a heaving mass of bodies and think that's just wrong because we're used to kind of recoiling at that kind of spectacle? During the pandemic.
What do you think is going to happen? Like, I have an idea that because I think Taiwan has kind of dealt with this. They've come out pretty good so far, from what I read, and they have it's since SARS and I think MERS in the last decade. They've kind of developed a custom of wearing masks and this kind of social distancing practices, and when they travel, they wear masks and things like that. And it's probably been easier for them to adapt because of that. But there's going to be another pandemic. There's going to be another virus to surface at some point in our lifetime, and I don't know.
At least every decade.
Well, this was why I think the Obama administration set up like a task force, a regulatory body to monitor pandemics, which was more or less torn apart by the current administration, which is very unfortunate because although doomsday groups like Jehovah's Witnesses like to point to this as we joke, evidence that we're in the last days. What I was reading, was it The Body by Bill Bryson and various other books at the beginning of this show, which were basically saying it's not a case of if, but when. It's just inevitable that you're going to have pandemics. The question is, how well prepared are you going to be for when the next pandemic hits? And as we've learned with the coronavirus, there are all sorts of political and cultural factors. And my personal view is that the right-wing swing that the world has taken post 9/11, where we're living basically in a perpetual state of fear that populist leaders are exploiting. That atmosphere of fear and distrust of the establishment is fueling how bad the body count is with this pandemic, because it's now almost popular to come out with outrageous conspiracy theories and say, oh, it's all a hoax and you're infringing on my personal rights. That sort of ideology, I'm sure, has always been around, but I question whether it would have been so manifest if this pandemic had struck, let's say, 10 or 15 years ago, when the world was, you could argue, far more left-leaning, or global politics was far more liberal. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lloyd, that we've normalised, we as a society have normalised the extreme views, and wherever we all sit on our take on lots of matters, social, political, whatever it might be, the extremes have become normalised, and there's less of an inclination to look at facts, and there's more of an inclination for people to dig their heels in on their respective extreme viewpoints. And I think we need to really get back to the basics and just look at facts, because facts on things like health don't change no matter what our perspective is, whether we're left or right wing. Facts on how we interact as humans shouldn't change. So yeah, the extreme views need to really be leveled out. And I think, as you say, Javier, like, we'll look back at this time and we'll see that maybe this will be a chance for humanity to kind of reevaluate, maybe to get a new foundation, to really work out what is it that's important to us. And maybe there'll be some changes in established behaviours and routines and things like that that might help to get us to a safer space and maybe a more level playing field in terms of how we interact with people.
Yeah, I get a feeling that there's going to be like lots of jobs and careers that where people are going to reevaluate the value of being in a brick and mortar building all the time.
Yes.
And then there's always the question of, working parents who send their children to school. For a lot of them, that's their health care. I mean, their child care provision is that they can send their kids to school for 6 or 7 hours a day, and they can go to work because they can send the kids to school and they don't have to pay for that. Well, if you're working from home, that's not necessarily the answer to that issue. But I mean, since March, I've probably spent more time with my family than I have ever, since I've had a family. And that's going to be hard to give up if we ever go back to normal. So, there's going to be a lot of rethinking that's probably going to happen.
Vicky Griffin Dane says the world is restructuring, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess it's just fascinating. It would be fascinating to know what the world will look like, let's say 5-10 years on from the pandemic coming under control. How will things look in society in general? It's going to be fascinating to see. One thing that you can guarantee is that the Jehovah's Witnesses will still be saying, "Oh, it's almost Armageddon."
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And I could totally imagine Jessica coming on one of these things and telling people to wash their hands, but this time she'll have like a doctorate's degree, and she's like an epidemiologist.
She'll be the president of Croatia, and definitely, yeah. Gosh. No, it's going to be interesting, and we have there an update on the cats. So
I could seriously watch your cats all day hitting that little toy thing with his face.
Well, really, when you think,
Javier, it's affecting work productivity, I have to say.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I think that our pets, and I think that Abby and Sydney are an example of that, but our pets worldwide are a great example of how we should approach life. At the end of the day, chill out, mellow out, have a sleep, play with things a little bit, interact with people, just chill out. I think that's the motto. Maybe cats can teach us a thing or two. And
that's one of the byproducts of this whole thing. I think our pets are spoiled. They're used to having us home all the time. My wife's taking them to walks in the middle of the day. That never used to happen.
Yep.
So I'm sure
we've actually taken on our family is kind of growing in terms of animals. So we started off with Bessie. Bessie's our dog, who we've had since about 2010, 2011. Not long after I moved here, in fact, we got Bessie. And then we recently took on Olivia. So we have a cat. And recently, Deanna's parents came back from visiting a relative with a rabbit. They just randomly brought back a rabbit. And actually, Deanna and I were not too pleased about it, because we were saying, well, it's not, rabbits are animals they're not here just for our entertainment. And I think I kind of touched on this in a recent convention rebuttal. There's just this attitude kind of that I think is residual from religious fundamentalism, that animals are there for our amusement. And obviously I'm not talking about, you know, pets are great. I'm not kind of decrying having pets, because I really enjoy having our dog Bessie and our cat Olivia. But I think if you're going to have a pet, let it be an actual pet that receives all of your care and attention. At the moment, the rabbit that they brought back is literally, you know, I have the bunker in the basement. So the rabbit is literally in the other part of the basement that isn't the bunker, and it's in a cage. And I feel really sorry for it. And we would have been saying, don't bring it, because it, you know, we want to teach Jessica to take responsibility, and that if you have an animal, it doesn't just go to a forgotten part of the house, out of sight, out of mind. You actually have to make sure it's comfortable and enjoying life, you know?
Exactly. Animals are not there for what they give us. It's what we can give to them, and we need to take care of them and give them love. And sure, they provide us with happiness and joy, but at the end of the day, they need us to assist taking care of them and give them the love.
What you've just said there, though, Lloyd, it reminds me of the attitude that you find in most fundamentalist religions, and that's this concept of ownership, that the husband, you know, patriarchal organizations where the man is the head of the house, and having that, there's this sometimes not so subtle, sometimes blatant, but there's this subtlety of the man owning the wife and the parents owning children. And then, of course, you talk about pets and animals, that it's this sense of ownership. And because of this I own you idea, you have to do what I tell you to do. And now that just grates against me so much.
I don't know whether you've seen the latest convention videos that have dropped, you know, for the Saturday afternoon, which I'm currently doing my rebuttal for.
We're looking forward with eagerness.
Oh, there's the Nehemiah drama, all about the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem, and it's actually kind of quite comical, because Javier, you know, when you're considering a script for a film, you know, what you want is a good plot. You want something that's compelling. You want something where you genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. I watched a similar film like that last night, Knives Out. Thoroughly enjoyed it with Daniel Craig.
That was a good one. Yeah.
You have no idea what's going to happen next. You're literally being taken on a roller coaster, and anything could happen. The Nehemiah drama is so dull, so dreary, so predictable. It's literally, I'm going to return to Judea and rebuild the walls, and there's going to be opposition, but we will prevail. And that's what happens. And that's your plot line.
Yeah, there's no creative license. They don't allow themselves creative license.
Well, they do sort of. They do try to introduce one or two subplots, and there's one particularly disturbing subplot where one of the workers on the walls is behind with his rent for his landlord, and they have this conversation, and the landlord, who is putting out very sinister vibes, suggests that rather than paying money, they pay by giving over their daughter as a slave. So he's very interested in having this guy's minor daughter come into his family as a slave to pay off the rent.
That in the Bible passage.
Well, this is their version of creative license. This is apparently going to lift the story and make it more interesting. So then you have this conversation where this family are grappling with the dilemma of whether to give over their daughter, and the wife puts her foot down and says, "No way, we're doing this." But you're kind of thinking, you know, you're really going to go there, are you, Watchtower?
Yes.
With your track record.
So with the opportunity to have some creative license on an old story, they picked the most backwards misogynistic aspect of the old world to include it as a subplot in their story. That
exactly, and it gets, well, I wouldn't say it gets worse, but yeah, it kind of does get worse because the daughter, as far as we know, never ends up going into slavery. But then they take you back to the landowner's house, and he's having an argument, or he's basically being psychologically abusive to his wife by making her feel bad because they don't have children of their own, and telling her that time is running out. And here's the thing: you're watching. I'm sure Jehovah's Witnesses will be watching it, thinking, oh, well, this just shows that there were bad people around. But what they don't understand is that this mentality and this kind of behavior is directly endorsed by the Bible writers, who frequently describe women solely in terms of their ability to bring forth children and whether or not they are, quote unquote, barren or fertile. So they can't just point to this and say, oh, this is an extreme example, when that's actually behavior and thinking and ideology and culture that is directly endorsed in the Old Testament.
Right. And can we think of all the so-called righteous men that were God's friend who did give their children over for some form of, Jephthah's daughter. Let's think about Lot and his daughters. Let's think about Abraham and his son. The children were treated as property that would help you better yourself in some way. It's disgusting.
So yeah, it's kind of fascinating to see, because you were mentioning about the kind of misogyny, and it's kind of it's shown or it's portrayed in the drama, but it's portrayed in such a way as to say, oh, this is the sort of thing that bad people were doing, but there's no acceptance that actually, no, this is again endorsed conduct in the Bible, because it frequently refers to women in terms of whether they produce children or not. So what do you expect,
And the child there is given no agency either. She has to do what her father tells her to do. So if they've made a decision that we're going to go along with this suggestion here, the daughter doesn't get any say whatsoever. And that, to sort of go back to the whole ownership thing, the witnesses still do this because of child indoctrination. There's no difference here. The children are not allowed to make their own decision. And if they make their own decision when they're of age to, you're out.
And it's worth remembering as well that in the Ten Commandments, there was an opportunity to condemn slavery.
Right.
It wasn't taken because, I think as Hitch put it, it was about to be more or less endorsed in the following verses. And then you're going to suggest that if people actually follow through and have slaves or request slaves, that they're bad. Well, you had your chance at the beginning to lay the ground rule, absolutely no slavery. You didn't take that chance, and this is the sort of society you should expect as a result.
Yes, but it was only slaves from people from the nations, the unworthy people that didn't qualify, that weren't deemed as appropriate, or so even that, we're creating this view of people, the ones that are better than others. Appalling behaviour.
We went down this route just talking about Lloyd's Rabbit. That's
yeah. It's amazing where the conversation will go on the last day's live stream.
I am disappointed in one thing though, Lloyd.
Go on.
And it's what's the name of your rabbit, by the way?
Oh gosh, I think it does have a name. I just don't know what it's. I'm not emotionally attached to it enough.
So I am disappointed that you, as a good Brit and new owner of a rabbit, did not name it the Rabbit of Carbonog.
Is that from Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yeah, and now you have an excuse because this bitter, angry rabbit is locked up in a cage and he's probably developing a resentment towards you.
Yeah.
Now you have an excuse to buy yourself a holy hand grenade.
If I open the cage door, I do expect it to fly at my neck, like said rabbit, out of sheer frustration and boredom. No, seriously, it's sad to see an animal just being kept in a cage like that. But there's literally nowhere else in the house where it can go because no one's thought about it because it was a last minute thing. And for goodness sake, I don't want to get on Deanna's parents' case about it too much, which I'm kind of doing, but there's
only a few thousand people watching. So
let's be responsible about animals and let's not treat them as though they're just there for our momentary entertainment.
So there's no chance he can kind of roam the garden freely, or?
Well, here's the problem. I mean, in theory, we should be, because we live in the countryside, so in theory, we should be able to release it into the woodland and it would have no shortage of food because rabbits just eat leaves, don't they? But because it's not part of a collective and it doesn't presumably know how to create a warren or a burrow, it will be at the mercy of what I know is quite a large population of foxes and wolves. So at night time, you can sometimes even hear the wolves howling. So it's kind of a dilemma. Maybe it would be worth releasing it anyway, so it at least has some enjoyment. And rather than
how many more rabbits do you want living
before
around
it
your
becomes
property?
lunch?
yeah. Before a wolf has its lunch. So who knows? I don't know. We'll think about it.
Hey Harvey, can I quickly ask how the progress with the Truth About the Truth documentary is going on behalf of all those who keep emailing and asking us about that?
Yeah, we're still working on it. Honestly, this week it's on hold. I haven't done anything surrounding that this week, and it's just because I have some other deadlines to meet. But as soon as this week's over, we're picking it right back up.
Awesome.
Excellent. So yes, that more or less brings us to the end of today's show, and we've gone.
Was it something you said?
No, it's just purely because I've got a rebuttal to start filming, and
And can we thank you for those? The convention rebuttals, the patience you have shown, are honestly amazing, and amazing.
I'm kind of slightly traumatized by it all, to be honest, because usually the JW Broadcasting rebuttal is the most frantic kind of project of the month for me, and these are like two JW Broadcasting rebuttals in one times by 6, each coming in quick succession, so that no sooner is one behind me than the other one is being planned for. So my head's just in a constant whir at the moment, but it's just one of those things where you settle into a process and you stick to it and you kind of refine it. So I'm finding with each rebuttal, I'm kind of nailing down what my creative process is so it's more efficient. It's been hugely helpful having a transcript. And so what I'm doing now is I'm not even watching the whole thing through as I did on the first couple. I'm actually basing my clips purely on what's said in the transcript, with a few exceptions, namely I'll watch the drama because there's things happening that aren't necessarily in the transcript. But no, the transcripts made it much easier. So now I just isolate what my segments are and then cut those segments in the video editing and then film my reactions. But to be honest, it's the post-production that's the killer, because it's usually 2 days of filming followed by 2 days of edits, and editing for any length of time is very, very monotonous and very, very boring. And for the last rebuttal, I reckon it took me about 20 to 21 hours of editing to get that ready for YouTube. So it's a real slog, but frankly, it's my job. So you just get on with it.
And it's worth it. When we're putting things in context again, we hear people who literally feel validated and heard when they get your responses or they watch the work that you produce. They walk out of these conventions feeling like they're the only ones who think something's up, and you're able to give them the support to know that they're not alone and that what they're observing is indeed unusual, dysfunctional, and inappropriate. So you literally do help people to open their eyes and wake up from the work that's done.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
And you contribute greatly to our swear jar. because we have a swear jar, and Sasha owes it a lot of money. Can I just say, there is usually a barrage of expletives.
Potty mouth, Sasha.
Yeah,
potty
honestly.
mouth. you wouldn't think looking at him, would you?
Oh, let me tell you.
I'd like to see video of that, by the way. Video of Sasha person.
That could be arranged.
Watching that continuing story on the Saturday morning. What were the two characters, Sherry?
Jade and Nita. They're back.
Oh my
They're back in the Saturday afternoon.
Are they? Okay,
Jade,
the jar's going to overflow.
Jade gets baptized.
Oh God! Of course she does. That has got to be the most contrived and complete with the emotive music and you talk about a storyline that's predictable. Oh my goodness!
But right from the beginning, I know we're over time, but I just that was so infuriating.
Yeah.
Where they did the montage of the OCD pioneer who has everything.
It's got problems.
Oh, the heavy metal
Yes.
versus, oh God.
Yes, and the toothbrush and her hair in disarray, and there was so much subtle subliminal messaging that they were putting into that, comparing what the witness has got everything together, because I can't even.
I'd say there was nothing subtle about it.
Oh,
the message they're trying to give across is very clear, I think. But
it is so unrealistic and so contrived. It's basically just a fantasy that's how people are becoming Jehovah's Witnesses. It would be like, I don't know, an uninteresting, unattractive, middle-aged bloke, a bit like me, creating this kind of big budget propaganda video in which he's in Baywatch and and all of the ladies like him. It's that sort of self-indulgent. This would never happen, but this is what we want to happen, so we're going to make it happen on a movie screen. Yeah. That's basically what it is, and it's just so infuriating.
It definitely tells you how the governing body and the leadership see themselves.
Yeah.
And it's also the personification of what they think a real, true Jehovah's Witness should be like.
Yeah.
But it's also completely disconnected from real life. It's completely unattainable. Yeah. And anybody who sees that and thinks that's the way I need to be will always fall short.
Yeah. Constantly.
And so it's an interesting thing to watch. But.
Indeed. So Helen Grace says, "Thank you all for the thoughtfulness and impromptu entertainment. We love Arthur, so we look forward to the Last Days live stream twice a week. Keep going. Love from New Zealand." And I need to thank Raven Tree Frog for a very kind super chat, which I didn't mention at the time. All of the support, both with super chats and in positivity and kind words, very, very much appreciated. But that's our show. I hope you found it enjoyable. Please remember to stay safe, stay positive, and we will see you in our next show. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.